Broken relationships changed my perspective on life. First, I'm going to tell y'all a few stories of some things I went through growing up. And I'm going to show you how that changed the way I thought about different things and, how my perspective shifted through that. So I grew up in Jamaica, and growing up, I knew this girl that I really, really liked. I really liked her, and we were friends for the longest while. We became close friends, right? Because it was a mutual thing. So eventually, as things go, we ended up becoming a lot closer. I remember when I got to the place where I understood the background she had and how she grew up and the people she was raised around, how that affected me. So just as a backstory, this girl did not have a relationship with her father at all. I remember her talking to me about it, and this was when I was like 12, between the ages of 10 and 12, right? So still quite young. And I remember her talking to me about it, and she'd cry about not having a father to provide for her, and she was impoverished at the time. I have no idea what she's up to right now, but I remember back then, her family didn't have it to send them to school. Her mom and older siblings kind of made do. They made an effort to send her out to school, and she would lament on how she didn't have a relationship with her father and how he was absent. And I remember being 10, 11, 12, thinking to myself that there is no way on this earth that is the type of relationship a man should have with his kids. I remember that being such a potent feeling, such a potent thought. I remember thinking that distinctively, and I vowed to myself in that moment that, I kind of wanted to be a hero for that girl at the time, but more so for my children, right? No child should ever go through that where a parent is gone, right? A parent is completely absent from their lives. And I could see the hurt and the pain on this girl's life firsthand. Even though I didn't fully understand it at the time, it did really affect me. And when I saw that, it broke me, because I'm like, this here is a precious, wonderful girl, whom at the time I really liked. So I'm like, why wouldn't her own father be there for her? And I guess the basis of that story is that, sometimes the people you love most aren't there for you. Sometimes the people you love most don't care. The people that should don't. Right? And that stood out to me at that point. And I remember, again, this girl, her family, they didn't have it, right? And not that my family had it, because we didn't, but my father was there. I had my dad, and he's a very hard worker. And I remember I'd get my money to go to school, my lunch money as we'd call it, and I'd save some of what I had, because I didn't get a lot. A lot of people thought I did. I really didn't. And I'd save my money, and when I knew it was lunchtime and it was time for people to eat, because I had friends that would help me out and stuff, I just kind of get some of what they had, and they'd have no problem sharing it, and I'd give her the money that I had, and that was occasional, and she'd get some stuff to eat, and she was very grateful for it. And I remember feeling a sense of responsibility, like wholesome responsibility, that like, wow, here's a gap that I'm able to fill. And of course it's naive and it's stupid, because what responsibility can you have for someone your own age, at 12? But I remember feeling that naively, but I felt it regardless, and I tried my best to be there for her in that way, and it really broke me. To this day, I still think about it. I still think about her and the situation that she grew up in, and how that affected her, because it did. And then, as we grew older, I could see the effects of that. I could see the effects of it, I could see how it affected her and her thought process. I remember the switch, right? There was a certain time when I realized that there's a certain switch that's happening, right? She'd seek for a certain amount of attention from guys, which unfortunately, you hear the stereotype of daddy issues and whatnot. It's a very debasing term for something that's very real. And I remember seeing that for the first time in her at around 11, 12. And that really broke me. right? Because I mean, there's a saying that there are no bad kids, there are only bad parents, right? And I believe that to be so true. You know, obviously not fully, because there are nuances to everything, but I believe that to be so true. And when I started realizing those tendencies and those traits, I said to myself, I asked myself, what are the things that I have gone through in my childhood that has come to affect the way I behave and see the world now, right? And when I look at my personal life, I have not had the best relationships in my life, period. You know, I've had some very good ones. It's like a wild contrast. Great relationships, terrible relationships. And that's kind of defined my life as well. And it definitely has had an effect on me. I'd say for better and for worse. And I'm trying to make it for the better completely right now. And, you know, bad relationships has changed my perspective on life. I've come to understand that, you know, people have way greater influence on us than we think. And although I'm an advocate for, you know, self-belief and individualism and the fact that you can go it alone and you can be strong for yourself and you can change, that is possible outside of anyone else. That you are your own person and you're responsible for any and everything that happens in your life. I fully believe those terms. I accept those terms. But on the other hand, I think that the way we're treated, especially at a young age, really shapes us. It really shapes us. And that's kind of how my perspective has changed. Right? Looking back, I've been doing a lot of introspection in the recent days. And looking back, I can pinpoint the different things that have happened in my childhood that have come to define my character now. And most of the things that has changed me and really shocked me into attention, so to speak, are the terrible relationships I've had in my life, whether romantically, platonic, familial, etc. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Those things have a way of really affecting us and changing the way we see the world, changing the way we see ourselves. But the truth is, you are your own person. Your experiences don't define you. Yes, it is possible that you become the product of your environment, but ultimately the choice is up to you. And if you really want to change, if you really want to redefine, rebuild, recharacterize yourself, you can do it. No one has chains on the mind. That's up to you, right? That's up to you. Bob Marley says, free yourself from mental slavery. A lot of us are in mental chains, bondage, mental slavery right now. We've allowed our past and our experiences to define who we are as people. It's time for us to change that. So although you might have had terrible relationships in your life, bad relationships with parents, siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, girlfriends, boyfriends, it's still up to you to define what type of character you'll have in your life. And that's all this talk is about. That's all this talk is about. Negative relationships do change people. You do learn a lot. But it's up to you what you do with those experiences and how you allow it to shape you. This is Corporate Conversations. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.